So at the beginning of all of our Wednesday general meetings at the Rotary Club, we recite the four-way test, which was created in 1932 by a Rotarian business needed some time. It's basically a ethical standard that is our guide for decision making and strength we stay in. So please join me in reciting the four-way test. Is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be fun? Well, welcome Rotarians and distinguished guests. Rotaractors, I believe, are here. Welcome to the 59th Berkeley Rotary Peace Grove Award Ceremony, sponsored by the Berkeley Rotary Club and organized by the Peace Committee. I'm Dan Thomas, co-chair of the Peace Committee, along with Maxine Schrogan, who was chair solo for many, many years. We're here to honor and celebrate the peace work of the United States Agency of International Development, USAID. With our Peace Award. But before we proceed, we'd like to recognize a few distinguished guests. First, former District 5160 District Governor and current Rotary International Peace Activator, Suzanne Bracken.
Yes.
We'd like to recognize Berkeley City Council member and Berkeley Rotarian, Igor Trigud. We'd also like to recognize the Vice Mayor of Albany, I believe is here, I just heard, Peggy McQuaid. Welcome. And we're proud to welcome Berkeley City Mayor, the Honorable Adina Ishii. We'd like to say a few words.
Hello. It's nice to see you all. I want to thank the Berkeley Rotary Club, who's hosting this wonderful event, and congratulate USAID, who is this year's Rotary Peace Award honoree. USAID championed many initiatives and programs that greatly supported vulnerable populations around the globe by promoting peace, addressing health issues, providing humanitarian aid in response to crisis, supporting economic growth and education throughout the world, and empowering women. As only our third female mayor of the city, I'm really grateful for that work in particular. The City of Berkeley is committed to this mission of achieving peace and finding ways to continue supporting and serving our diverse communities here in our city, many of whom are from around the world, especially now more than ever. This commitment is at the heart of the Rotary International Peace Grove right here at Tilton Park, where a redwood tree is dedicated each year to honor a person or organization that has played a critical role in promoting world peace. Thank you so much to the Rotary Club and continued local and international service for your continued international service for gathering us here today for this event. And congratulations again to USAID. I really appreciate you coming all the way up here to receive this award. Thank you all.
You want to open it for it? UC Berkeley Chancellor Richard Lyons, but I understand he's traveling. We might have somebody here from his office. Is Ruben Lizardo here? Ruben Lizardo? Yes. Ruben Lizardo is the Local Governments and Community Relations Director in the Chancellor's office. Thank you.
And Rotary.
And Rotary. And although the Chancellor can't be here in person, he was kind enough to send us a video that we'll see now.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the kind invitation to share a few words on the occasion of the Berkeley Rotary's ceremony to recognize the U.S. Agency for International Development with the Rotary's Peace Award. Given that I am currently traveling, I wanted to take a moment to add my congratulations and acknowledge the USAID's many contributions since the agency was formed in 1961. When I think about USAID's work, the word that comes to mind for me is unparalleled. The agency has been on the front line of an incredible number of projects to aid countries all over the world, engaging multiple stakeholders in projects to reduce poverty, improve health, strengthen democratic governance, advance education, provide humanitarian relief, and foster economic development and self-sufficiency. The founders understood that the agency's work in these areas was essential to the mission of achieving world peace. We are grateful to USAID for partnering with UC Berkeley and the University of California over many years, giving our faculty and students the opportunity to serve diverse communities around the world. Countless UC Berkeley alumni got their start or found a home for their public service career through USAID. Like our honored speaker, Berkeley alumna Christine Scheckler, who served as Foreign Service Officer for many years. I could go on, but I want to keep my congratulatory remarks brief to save time for the in-person speakers. So let me just say thank you to Christine for her many years of service, and thank you to USAID for the agency's unparalleled contributions.
And thank you, Chancellor. Now Maxine Strogan will give a short description of the history of the Peace Committee.
Thank you, Dan. I'm co-chair with Dan of the Rotary Peace Committee, and I'd also like to welcome you. It's so delightful to see, especially all you people are gathered together. We're considering this a Rotary-sponsored celebration of what AIDS has done. I'm not loud enough? Okay. And so we welcome you. This is totally joyous. You have mentioned the four-way test before, but there's also another Rotary guideline. It's called Service Above Self. And that can mean many things to many people, but in the case of AIDS, all of you people in this room, on Zoom, and maybe throughout the United States and elsewhere, have done service above self. You've gone to foreign countries in order to help other people, sometimes a sacrifice to your own needs. And so we consider USAID an exemplary example of this Rotary motto, and that's why the club chose to honor you with the Peace Grove, and so we're proud again that you're here. About the Berkeley Rotary Club and its Peace Committee, it's done several things. First, as you all see, we're in charge of the Rotary Peace Grove in Tilton Park and honoring a person every year or organization that has done work for peace. We've also been a host to the Rotary Peace Institute, which was housed at the university for many, many years, and so we help mentor people from around the world to get training in peace through Rotary. But these days, what we're really concentrating on is civil discourse. For 10 years, the club has sponsored trainings in civil discourse, how to talk to each other across difference. We've been trained from the inside, but also by some outside organizations, Brave Angels, Living in Conversation, Courageous Conversations, and we hold a monthly Zoom meeting, open especially to our parents, but to everybody, to practice the tools for
there must be a trash hiking.
mechanical adjustment kit. Practice the tools for civil discourse. And that's what we do. So we think that Rotary is the ideal organization to spread this kind of work. We're nonpartisan, and so we're considered sort of equal agitators or adjudicators in agitators too. Fred will talk about that. In any situation. And so we think that a way of spreading peace is to confront the person who radically disagrees with you, but in a civil way, and to avoid stereotyping and to avoid the polarization that is poisoning our country and, I dare say, the world. How are we going to learn those kinds of tools? Well, again, that can be considered service above self, because what we're asking people to do in these meetings is give up their attachment to strong ideas in order to accept other realities equally. That keeps us from stereotyping people and hopefully reduces polarization. I personally have benefited marvelously from that. So, again, USAID does that work. Many of you, again, have sacrificed personal goals to work overseas for the benefit of other people and for the benefit of the United States. Working in a foreign culture calls for you to lose a bit of your old identity and be flexible to other cultures and realities. I consider that almost a spiritual challenge. One has to lose a sense of self in order to do that service. I admire you all really greatly. You've risen to the challenge, and so I thank you. Thank you all. I'd like to introduce next Fred Carignan, my mentor in the club, who will talk a little bit about the history of the Peace Grove and of the
Thanks, Maxine. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So I've got three topics to talk about, but there's several themes. Rotary, I like to think of as being like the Agency for International Development, good troublemakers. And that quote from John Lewis and Fulbright says, we create good, but to do creation of good, you end up invariably having to create trouble somehow, whatever you're trying to do, which is part of the game. The talk will have three kinds of parts: history of Rotary's peace work, and finally a part of AID. So again, what is this Rotary? 30,000 clubs around the world, 200 countries.
No, there's no more plates.
At 1.3 million Rotarians, if you add the Rotaractors and Interactors, it actually is 2 million total that are involved in these kinds of commitments to all the things that Chad's described and was described by the earlier speakers. It's a lot of work, a lot of joint objectives. The peace work has been a symbol where a lot of these. So how's it been going? If you join the walk that's going to come from the luncheon to the Peace Grove, some people do that walk after this luncheon. It's not that long a walk, but on the Nimitz Trail. Why the Nimitz Trail? It was named for Admiral Chester Nimitz, who, headed the Navy during World War II, the hero of the Midway Battle, signed the Japan, with regard to the peace treaty at the end of the war. He was also Berkeley Rotarian. So the Children's Park District asked Rotary to create the Peace Grove. So again, it's an inside job. The head of the Parks District was very famous. He was also Sid Robertson, who was a Rotarian as well at the time. A little inside job of being asked, perhaps. But they asked us to create on the site of a Nike missile base. That was created to defend us against Japan if it were invaded the Bay Area, or Russia if the kingdom was attacked. But a great symbolic place to create the road. The parks chose the trees, Rotary purchased the trees, planted it under the direction of the Parks Department, and for some 50+ years they maintained the park. Check your Michelin Guide is one of the few must-see sites in the Bay Area, according to their people, if you're important. So take a look sometime if you have time. Well, the other part of that work was to choose an annual honoree. And that ran into difficulty. In the early years, the overall theory was deterrence was the way to win peace. Basically, you kept the military strong enough that would scare off an enemy from declaring war or attacking you, and would scare them from attacking another ally because you were trying to defend them. So the early honorees trying to be statespeople, military people, and that was the main focus. But sometimes that became difficult. It's something called the Vietnam War. And we couldn't get 2/3 of the club to approve any of the honorees any given year. We had a lot of years without any honorees. Well, the club got smart on its own before the academics were afraid. We moved to a definition which is now often called in foreign policy circles soft power. That you have major power in other countries by providing an example of the good you've done in their country, and also being the kind of country they wish to emulate. And it's been judged for about 30 years that soft power is a key part of the U.S. strength abroad. That is being challenged again as we observe the idea of strong military. That definition will keep changing. Rotary International now embraces very much positive views, negative views of doing violence in the world. Positive views, again, creating those conditions that prevent the problems in countries which can give rise to war. People are hungry, they're thirsty, they need health care, they need education, they need a democratic voice. Minorities would indeed somehow have their personal needs recognized. A very key thing for both these two organizations. So, the honorees are sometimes like the Vietnam War controversy. We honored Edward Teller, the developer of the hydrogen bomb. Think about the terrorists. That was pretty key. We now are celebrating 80 years of success of nuclear weapons in the world. Not the war is always the risk free risk. It's wars almost all the time. But at least preventing the kind of world war that we used to have. But we've had controversies when we honored Nixon and later Kissinger for opening up China. I think we now view that as one of the major successes of the later 20th century because people too bad we couldn't sustain it. And it continues to be an ongoing kind of issue. Hopefully AID, except for here in Washington, is not an issue. This is an obvious kind of phrase. So let's talk about some of the ways Rotary has fostered peace. In the early days, Rotary supported League of Nations, all those disarmament treaties in the 20s, most of which were judged to have been failures in the World War. Over time, that began changing. Rotary from the beginning said our goal was to expand communication across boundaries of nation states, class, race, climate, gender, to make these types of things happen. But Rotary did things. It sponsored ambassadorial scholars, exchanges of American citizens and others to go abroad, study, to do their theses, their dissertations, and earn their other degrees. It sponsored youth exchanges, exchanging high schools across countries. It created Interact and Rotaract, which, as I said, are almost 1 million in their own number now, who, in the kind of values that both AID and Rotary pursue, they created that network of peace centers around the world, which they had one person. But it also did things like grants to individual clubs to make major improvements in their own communities, often working with clubs elsewhere, regionally and nationally. Rotary does about 2,000 grants every year, to the 35,000 clubs around the world. Many of these grants may build a well-built sanitation system, do training in agriculture.
Excuse me.
Something dramatic. Polio Plus is one of the secret weapons for doing many things. Polio Plus scripts vaccinations of kids with polio and reduce the number of cases from the level of tens of thousands to less than 10 cases a year in some of the recent years. We will have polio, only the second major disease that will end in human history. It will happen. Smallpox took actually 40 years to develop, so we're trying to have the vaccination out of control. Good.
Well, there are other aspects of Rotary that people don't, that polio plus that people don't know. Usually there are ceasefires declared in major conflicts that people can go in and vaccinate kids. The last ceasefire in Gaza was due to polio vaccination. 3 days of quiet, they vaccinated 550,000 kids. It's incredible how much you can get done in a short period when you're focusing. Well, that one came right back to war as soon as it ended. But other countries, it's been different. My favorite example is the stamp Sri Lanka issued honoring the president of Rotary International when the ceasefire of that country ended over a decade of civil war. Sometimes these things last a long time. You never resolve conflicts totally. But those kind of peace negotiating opportunities are often created indirectly by things like the health type services you can do. Rotary also is known for projects that may have bigger impacts. I'm going to skip one of my single favorite ones for lack of time at the moment. Rotary's big types of things on peace are better known. 1940, the Havana International Rotary Convention made the first declaration call for an international declaration of human rights. And UN historians argue that that was a key factor in putting it early on the agenda of the United Nations. So we're kind of proud of that international declaration. Delegates were chosen by their country were Rotarians. Not chosen because they had anything to do with Rotary, chosen because they had the kind of skills the national governments wanted to create the UN Charter. Well, that major implications for Rotary, both before and after. We now know from historians that to create something like the United Nations, intentionally trying to avoid non-voting. It also put us in ongoing annual collaboration and contact with other related international groups, the World Health Organization, UNESCO, UNICEF, and with national groups like AID. So there's a degree of partnership formed as we address them. In the case of our work with AID, they provide major money and the technical guidance in many of these projects. We help mobilize the volunteers locally, and we also help politically mobilize the local and the national governments to be supportive partners in doing these kind of things because of that network of clubs. It's really significant. So it's a complex way in which we have learned to try and affect change in peace. AID has been a partner with paper format relationships for over 10 plus years. It's been a partner for so many decades now, what we do. Their biggest projects, I think, are mainly centered around wash, water, and sanitation projects. Most Rotarians don't realize that while Polio Plus is our biggest venture, our second biggest is WASH, those type programs around the world. And we collaborate closely with you on all of those. I had a theme initially, I think, calls, and this, we are joint producers of good trouble. I know that's going to continue for the years ahead. AID may end up coming back with a different name, a different sort of funding pattern, but that work's going to continue. If you're looking for something to do, join Rotary on the side. We have that relation with ex-Peace Corps people. We might as well be going with AID people as well, if they're looking for stuff to do in their other jobs. Come join, we've got major work ahead. The world needs us.
Thank you very much, Fred. It's now time for me to present the award. First, I'm going to do a brief description of USAID, as is in our brochure, as a matter of fact, which is a little different from what you've heard. It's a little more matter of fact. The United States Agency for International Development was established during Cold War in 1961 to provide foreign aid and thereby counter the Soviet Union through the use of, quote, soft power. Once the world's largest aid agency, the Trump administration ended 83% of USAID's project in February of this year. From 2001 to 2024, USAID had an average budget of $23 billion a year and missions in over 100 countries in areas as diverse as education, global health, environmental protection, and democratic governance. From 2001 to 2021, an estimated 92 million deaths were likely prevented by USAID funding, including an estimated range of between 26 and 36 million among children younger than 5. So you can always all be proud of the miraculous, almost miraculous things that you and AIDS have done. Now I'd like to introduce the recipient of the award, Christine Scheckler. And while you come up, Christine, I'll just read from your description of yourself and all the things you do. She's an FSO, which means she's a Foreign Service Officer. She has an MBA in International Business and Marketing. She worked for the U.S. Agency for International Development AIDS for 27 years. She's on the San Diego World Affairs Council. She's immediate past president and board member of the Orange County World Affairs Council, board member effective soon, the San Diego Diplomacy Council. Christine, you're kind of a busy person. USG funded international fellows, host family USAID Alumni Association, which maybe you're all the members of, the Outreach Committee co-chair, returned Peace Corps volunteers in Iberia, West Africa, Friends of Afghanistan, Peace Corps for Refugees, Friends of Liberia, and now the Mingue International Museum ambassador docent in Balboa Park in San Diego. I want everybody to know that Christine came to accept this award from friends. On my way to San Diego, but I'm still impressed. So Christine, come on up.
First of all, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you to the Berkeley Rotary in particular and all the esteemed guests and speakers before me. I don't have that much time. It's a long story, as you can imagine. I'm just representing the agency. This award is to our agency. Those of us who served, were lucky enough to serve a full career, and those who were not so lucky and had their careers short-circuited. So before I actually read my remarks, I would like everybody who is AID, which includes implementing partners, those are maybe NGOs and organizations like that, who worked with AID. I'd like you all to stand up to make sure everybody knows who's at the table. And you can all name them. Everybody has been following the news, so you can appreciate that today and this opportunity to receive this award on behalf of USAID is bittersweet. It would be dishonest for us to think otherwise. I want today for us to be a joyous occasion, for us to acknowledge the great work that we did with USAID, what a great organization it was, and hopefully the spirit doesn't die. I know that our spirit certainly will continue because that's part of our chemistry, our DNA, the AID folks. And after the award and everything, all the AID people will come up here with the plaque and receive the award with me because it is an award for the agency. And a small detail, I was just in Lithuania where I had been the head of AID in Lithuania in 2000 when we closed the mission. And one of our FSNs, as the host country people, kept this for whatever that is now, 25 years. He had given it to the new AID Belarus office, which opened in Vilnius. And Jim, wherever you are, where are you, Jim? Stand up. So Jim was out in Vilnius to help open up and run the USAID Belarus office, which unfortunately, because of all of this, had a short tenure. But he received this plaque from our Lithuania team to honor Belarus. And so now it's back with Lithuania, and I'm really lucky that now it's with both of us to share more these events with USAID. So my sister came to visit me when I was in Sierra Leone, and her words never left me, and I'm sure that all the AID people feel the same way. My sister stayed with me for about 3 weeks, and I took her everywhere with me because I really wanted her to understand what I do. Even though we write the letters, you cannot understand what we do. So my sister came out and stayed with me for the 3 weeks, and when I was done, she said, "Oh my God, you get to wake up every morning and you really do have a chance to change the world. That's who we are. That's who we are." So on behalf of USAID, I'm honored to share a few thoughts in response to this deeply meaningful recognition. The gesture of acknowledging and honoring our agency, formerly known as USAID, resonates profoundly with all of us. and it's a peace award. And for many of us who are democracy officers, that's a particularly relevant award. But for those who were not necessarily democracy officers, we know it all comes together. It's not democracy, it's everything. It's education, it's health, it's economic development. It all filters in to a vibrant and healthy country. So all of us are part of that whole process. In accepting this award, USAID leadership, so I went back to Aid Washington folks too, good bureaucrat. In accepting this award, USAID leadership wishes especially to shine a light on the compassion, dedication, and unwavering commitment of our colleagues, both those that are in the US and those overseas, either those Americans who stayed overseas, some are doing that, and also very importantly, we work very closely in country with the host country people. So this loss, this transition is not affecting just Americans in America, it's affecting people all over the world and arguably the most vulnerable people all over the world who, pretty much without warning, had the rug pulled out. So let's not forget them. And that was all done, our AID folks here, was done despite facing termination this year. They continued to work until the very end. They each got dates. They worked till the very end, knowing that they've lost their career. Some of them don't have homes, they've got kids, now they don't have a job, and they lost careers, they didn't lose a job, because the whole sector is kind of shut down. So again, it's to really value the people who are in this room, who are online, and who will follow up with our information about this event. So think about all of them, that they're so dedicated, they stayed until the very end, until they got on an airplane, making sure if we have food, whatever it is we're supposed to be doing, that we're doing it as long as we can. So I like it. And again, I want to make it clear, we're talking about AID people directly, we're talking about the implementing partners, and we're talking about the partners globally. Throughout our history, those we serve, beneficiaries and partners across the globe, have looked to the United States as a beacon of hope. Many of you may not realize that USAID is a first responder on behalf of the US government, but we were the first responder on behalf of the US government for political and man-made calamities. So when the US government was going to respond to earthquakes and tsunamis, to political incursions into other countries, USA teams were the first on the ground to do the assessments and then pull in interagency and decide who has what capability to respond. So AID has been so important, and for some of us personally, it's been very difficult to realize how many people have never heard of us and have no idea, what we've done. When people were hungry, we provided the food. To those displaced from their homes and lands through conflict or natural disasters, we offered shelter and protection. For individuals in despair, we brought hope. When voices were silenced, we spoke up on their behalf. The question now remains, in our absence, who will help? Who will these people turn to for help? Americans have always demonstrated generosity and compassion. It's crucial to have an institution like USAID to project that compassion on a global scale. Without USAID, not only is our compassion diminished, but the influence and position of our global rivals are inadvertently strengthened. And I think we're going to watch that unfold, sadly. But I also want to add, many people think, I believe, many people think that AID is a tree-hugging, do-gooder kind of organization. We're stealing this special money and we're just doing nice things for other people when we have our own issues back home. As a former Peace Corps volunteer, I'd say, I wish that were the case, that we were just doing something good because we're good. But that's not the whole story at all. The USAID has always had a priority, and we fit into a long work chart, starting with the president and Congress and the military, as to what the priorities for the United States are, and we are part of the family that supports that. We believe, which is kind of core, we believe that helping countries become secure, prosperous, and stable nations incentivize their citizens to stay where they are. So for people that talk about immigration issues, for example, that's one way in which the US government had a tool. We're trying to help improve countries elsewhere so people don't feel the need to leave their own country. And of course, trying to contain certain diseases is another core aspect of being on the ground where things happen. USAID was dedicated to promoting global development and humanitarian assistance. As an organization, AID's mission was to deliver essential services and support to communities in need around the world. As has been mentioned, some of our major sectors were agriculture, health, economic development, education, and governance. As global development ambassadors, we are the individuals who carry out USAID's mission in the field. Our roles are diverse and often require us to work in challenging and dynamic environments, partnering with local communities, local governments, and international organizations to make a difference. Our work is grounded in compassion, commitment, and the drive to create lasting positive change. It also strengthens and supports our national interest. My own journey with USAID, I'm going to really go quickly through this, and the only reason I'm going through this is I'm an example. You're going to hear examples from other people, but they're only going to get to give one example. I'm going to show you the diversity of my career so you understand what all of us do. My own career with USAID began in Islamabad, Pakistan in 1989. At that time, the withdrawal of Russian forces from Afghanistan had left 3 million Afghan refugees in Pakistan and millions more internally displaced within Afghanistan. USAID's presence in Pakistan and Afghanistan was significantly focused on supporting these refugees and internally displaced people, while also helping to rebuild critical and governance institutions. During my 5 years there, I worked on programs related to counter-narcotics, what we called women in development at the time, rural development, and provincial planning. My colleagues focused on strengthening agriculture, health, and economic development. When the Berlin Wall fell and the former Soviet Union opened, USAID shifted its resources to support the newly independent states. I moved to AID Tbilisi, Georgia, to help establish that mission as Russian forces withdrew in 1994. Later, I joined AID in Washington, contributing to the launch of the Bureau for Europe and Eurasia, New Independent States, Office of Democracy and Governance, where I led civil society programs in 21 countries of the former Soviet Union. Subsequently, I was recruited to build the USAID office in Dushanbe, Tajikistan, Central Asia, under the oversight of the regional mission in Kazakhstan. My time there was cut short due to serious security threats. The Iranians wanted to kill me, and a few others. And soon after, the US and other international embassies closed their offices in Dushanbe for several years, operating instead from Kazakhstan. In '98, I moved to Lithuania, the Baltics, where USAID was closing its mission as the country achieved stability and prepared for integration with Europe. Afterwards, I spent 4 years in Belarus, focusing primarily on democracy building efforts as well as programs in social, health, and education sectors, with a lot of attention to mitigating the results of the Chernobyl disaster. My work next took me to Sierra Leone, West Africa, where I led USAID's initiatives to help rebuild the nation after its devastating 11-year civil war, known as the Blood or Conflict Diamond War. Our programs addressed agriculture, education, health, and governance to support Sierra Leone recovery. As an example of what we do, we got money and targeted during a local election, getting more women elected. And with only 6 months and a little bit of money to do it, we did get 11% moved up to 20% women in local councils throughout the country. Thank you. And increasingly over time, USAID has partnered with the military, and certainly during Afghanistan and Iraq years, but more than that as well. And it was really the military, and it was brought up earlier, the military are the ones a lot of times who actually talk to Congress and get money for AID. Because they say, if you don't give them money to prevent a war, then you'll be giving us money to fight it. They got the money for us many times. 2008 to 2010, I was embedded with the US military in Abu Ghraib, Iraq, as part of a small multi-agency provincial reconstruction team. In this volatile Sunni Shia region, I partnered with the military to implement development initiatives and promote peace. The local leaders, the sheikhs, expressed a profound shift in their perception of America, and this is why we do what we do. I was there for 2 years, and I dealt with at least 12 major sheikhs. In the beginning, they gave me a really hard time, and that included getting blown up several times. By the time I left, and I was turning everything over to the incoming mission director and briefing him on these people, because Abu Ghraib is right next to Baghdad. So if Abu Ghraib is a dangerous place, that makes it more dangerous for Baghdad. These sheikhs each stood up one at a time. These are not huggy, kissy guys, with tears in their eyes, and they said to my boss, when Christine came here 2 years ago, we hated America and we hated Americans. And we know how hard we made life for Christine. But she never wavered, and she came back and she came back and she delivered. If she represents Americans, then we love the American people. And I say that because that's who all of us are. I'm not unique, that's how we all are. And that's how we all live and work. After surviving the 2 attacks of my convoy in Iraq, I returned to Washington, D.C., serving in the Office of Civil Cooperation. There, I contributed to life-saving efforts, including the rescue of many Yazidis from Mount Sinjar in Iraq, following attacks, kidnappings, and rape by ISIS. I then headed our USAID Egypt Democracy, Rule of Law, and Governance Office until, once again, our mission was evacuated back to Washington as a result of security issues following the Arab Spring uprising. In 2015, I returned to Sierra Leone to lead USAID's in-country response to the Ebola outbreak. Through coordinated efforts, we successfully helped contain the epidemic and protect countless lives. Pretty amazing life, wouldn't you say? And we're all like that. We all have exactly the same story to tell. So, call to action. So following this appeal to our collective compassion and our desire to continue supporting our U.S. government national interests and echoing our leadership's powerful support, I conclude with a call to action. Let's not accept the current state of affairs. Become more educated. Reach out to your elected official. Call or write. Contribute to charitable organizations. Engage in productive civil conversations and organizations like this. Take meaningful steps to make a difference. Don't give up. The fight's not over, and I really don't even want it to be called a fight, but we need to do a better job of educating the American people. That's why in part why we're here today. We need to do a better job of educating the American people of what we did and why it's important. Whether USAID comes back as USAID or something else is really not an important point at this moment. What's important to, I believe, all of us is that the kind of work that we do is so essential to strengthening our country and keeping us safe. That's why we do it. So, if the powers that be at this point have, demolished AID, I'm calling on you to pay attention to the kinds of work we did. It's hard to find us online now. I think you have to type in U.S. Agency for International Development. USAID.gov is pretty much gone. So look at what we do and then recognize how critical that is to the survival of our own country, and then take action in ways that you're comfortable with. Many of you know Robert Redford just passed away, and one of his quotes, before he passed away obviously, hope does not need to be merely a passive wish. It can be an active force to propel us forward. So let's have hope, but let's match it with action. And one last thing I can't help but say, and lastly, to those living amid conflict around the world, please know you are not forgotten. We will find ways to connect. Thank you.
Christine, well, I'm sure we're all phenomenally moved by what we just heard. I'm sure we're all phenomenally moved by what we just heard. This is all wonderful. This is just a token of this club's appreciation for USAID, for Christine as your spokesman, for everybody here, and for people who have done this kind of work all around the world, Americans and others. We're proud that a lot of your words apply to Rotary as well as USAID, and it's wonderful to see how deep the connection is, and we hope it continues. So Christine, thank you very much. Next on the program, I've asked for 4 USAID alumni. Sorry? Yeah, and the first of the 4 is, actually 6. The first is Kate Harrison, who served in USAID and is a member of our Rotary and is the next member of the Berkeley City Council. Kate, it's all yours.
Thank you, afternoon. I hope you can hear me today. I'm proud to have devoted the last 20 years of my career to working for USAID and the World Bank. I worked in an area that's a little less known, which is the democracy and governance section that Christine mentioned. And it is devoted to improving people's rights, and in my case in particular, to ensuring the independence of the judiciary. Because without an independent judiciary, we do not have a democracy. I worked mainly in 14 countries that had been freed from the devastation of the tragic Balkan Wars and the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Our work was directed towards ensuring the separation of powers, stopping the traditions of what they call telephone justice, where the Minister of Justice calls up the judges and says, "This is how I want you to decide." Making sure that people understood what their rights were, how did they get the justice that they deserved, and making sure there were adequate resources to actually effectuate that. It's one thing to say, well, you have these rights, and it's another to make sure that people have lawyers, to make sure there are mediators available, to make sure people even have basic access to the laws. In many places, people couldn't even find the laws online. So to do that work is really critical to the maintenance of democracies everywhere in the world. The final piece of this is to ensure the courts are efficient, because as old saying goes, justice delayed is justice denied. And what we mainly saw was a pattern of those that were favored being able to get into the courts quickly, and everyone else waiting sometimes up to 20 years to have their cases heard. People in prison and people waiting for civil justice. These advances are now under attack because of the elimination of USAID. One thing that Christine didn't mention also is the way that USAID works with so many other donor agencies. DFB from the Brits, the Germans, the Swedes, everybody, the World Bank. They are a core to these other agencies being able to do their work. And I feel like pulling them out is leaving a huge hole in all of their work as well. And now we see, of course, and I'm going to be the political one because I was in politics, we now see that this separation of powers is under threat here in the United States. What I would say about that is protecting rights is integral to ensuring peace. The reason we're here today is to talk about peace, and we can't talk about peace without people having rights. So with that, I'm very glad that we're here to honor USAID today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kate. And I think it's a great idea that all you USAID people do what Kate did and join the Rotary. Now you don't work for USAID anymore, or at least come to a meeting. The next official speaker was going to be Akbar from Saffron Catering, the people who brought us our food. It's Ann of our club that brought us to that restaurant in Oakland. He had prepared this menu in advance for us to try out. And then it turns out that Akbar had been helped in Kabul by USAID. And if he were here, he would tell you more exactly how he benefited from that. I can't do that, but it was kind of phenomenal. And then he said, by the way, I was in the Rotary Club of Kabul, Afghanistan. And in my language, my native language, Yiddish, we call that the shared. You all might consider that serendipitous, but it was above and beyond coincidental and wonderful. Next, there are 4 specific USAID alumni that I've asked to speak. And then I guess the first, Margot Welk, will talk. We're asking for quick, resumes of what they've done, and then we'll see how much time we have left for more.
Thank you. I'll keep mine short because there's a lot of other people who need to talk also. Closer, there we go. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. My experience with USAID was I worked with them for 12 years. I was in Nepal, Ukraine, Zimbabwe, and Sri Lanka. And then I actually came back and started working at Cal on a USAID project, which unfortunately, as you know, is not working anymore. But I think just a few of the highlights, just to give you an idea of some things that I did while I was there. Every day was a little bit different, and I think I can really relate to what Christine said, is every day I woke up, it was like I was doing something I really wanted to do, and I knew that I was actually making a difference and helping people. And that was the biggest part that was important to me. But I got to do a little of everything from, when I was in Nepal, I did some anti-human trafficking with women and girls. When I was in Sri Lanka, we were working on coral reef preservation. When I was in Zimbabwe, I worked on something called kangaroo care, which is where, it's kind of cute, it encourages new moms and their babies just to have contact with each other. And it's something really simple and inexpensive, but it's something that USAID promoted, and it really helped the moms and the babies. And then most recently, when I was working at the University of California, I still am, we were working with a project of professors from Moldova who were coming to Cal to learn about entrepreneurship. So those are just a few examples of some of the things that I was able to do with USAID. Thank you.
Next on my list, let's see, Carlos de Madrid. Welcome. I'm sorry I forgot to tell you to come closer so we would save time.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Carlos de Madrid. I was with USAID for 15 years, but before that I was with a number of implementing partners working on USAID projects for about 5 years. And like Christine and others have mentioned before, there are a number of different places that I've worked over the years. The most recent was in Cambodia, in Phnom Penh, working really on environmental conservation and democracy, rights, and governance work to really try to provide a counterbalance to what has been, I think, increasing authoritarian rule in Southeast Asia. But what I wanted to mention, aside from that, because I think you'll hear a number of similar stories from other alumni, I want to talk about how I got my start in this field to begin with. And that dates back to the early 90s, really. And what I hear from a lot of alumni is just a commonality, which is a sense of volunteerism from an early age. Many people have gone through Peace Corps. For me, it was participating in a volunteer organization called Amigos de las Americas in Latin America. A very funny story is that my very first day with USAID, I was nervous, trying to get ready for this kind of journey ahead, and somebody comes up to me from the crowd of the fellow foreign service officers getting inaugurated, and she comes up and says, "Hey, we used to work in Amigos together." And that's Megan Kyles over here. And that was our working together goes back to 1996. Fast forward, we served together in Peru as our first tours. I served with Jim Stein in Afghanistan. And I think what's really important to say is that that sense of volunteerism starts early. The very first job that I had with USAID, unbeknownst to me, was working for Amigos in Costa Rica at the time. This was the early 2000s, to try to set up a local chapter of that organization that was going to recruit Latin American volunteers for the very first time to participate in summer programs with US-based volunteers. And that was all funded by a grant that USAID had left behind when they left Costa Rica. So, and I think it's very important to mention that part of that work I did there was the very first time I actually encountered the Rotary Club as well. I worked side by side with members from the Rotary Club to help get that chapter of that organization started. So getting a new generation of young people excited and inspired about this career, despite the difficulties that we're encountering now, I think is incredibly important. And I think it's, I'm going to also call out one other person in the room right now, and that's Randy Chester. Randy has been our representative on the board of the union during this time, and he's been kind of a stalwart proponent of all of us making sure our voices are heard with the State Department, with the administration throughout this time. So thank you very much, Randy.
Thank you so much, Carlos. How about Dan Ryan? I warned you, Dan, we'd ask you to talk. Are you here? Come on up.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, everyone. And, the Afghan lunch really reminds me of one of my first assignments right out of college, working with the International Rescue Committee, a USAID grantee in Afghanistan. I had the pleasure to enjoy many, many plates of Kabuli Palau. So Tashakur to Akbar when you see him. That project with USAID, funded by USAID, was to provide education to young girls and women who have been deprived of education during the Taliban rule. Subsequently from IRC, I continued with IRC. I was in Darfur, Sudan, also working with USAID funding to provide life-saving humanitarian assistance to people suffering through probably one of the worst genocides of the 20th century, at the turn of the 20th century. Later, when I joined USAID, my first assignment was in Ukraine, where I worked on anti-corruption efforts. I helped to establish a new judiciary. They fired all the judges in Ukraine and made them reapply for their jobs, a merit-based system, really to try to address that issue of telephone justice that had been mentioned. And this is my first assignment with USAID, and was really, the key driving strategic emphasis was about supporting Ukraine to really strengthen that transatlantic partnership with Ukraine, and also to really protect the bigger democracy, freedom, peace, and security in Europe and in the United States. After Ukraine, my next job with USAID was in Syria, where I worked very closely with the Department of Defense, as the Department of Defense was clearing out areas held by the Islamic State. My job with USAID was to go in and support communities to reestablish some civilian governance and to get basic services like electricity, water, sanitation, and jobs turned back on, so that people could have, again, resume some normalcy, get back to their life before they had been terrorized by ISIS. And my last job with USAID was in Kenya, where I managed humanitarian assistance, delivering life-saving food aid, water, sanitation, nutritional treatment for children facing severe acute malnutrition, the worst form of acute malnutrition. Little kids facing death or severe illness if they did not get this life-saving little packets of peanut butter paste. Every single packet has the American flag printed on it, says "From the American people." And it was really probably the highlight of my career to be part of that effort to deliver that type of aid to people who had fled war in South Sudan, Somalia, Eastern Congo, and who found safety and security in Kenya. And we, the United States, were providing that assistance to them. Now that's just, I think it's similar to other people's career trajectories, but more importantly, I think it tells a story about what we are losing with USAID going away. And it really gives me hope that it's taking already a tragedy today, what's happening, but hopefully that will lead to the resumption of the United States as a leader in foreign assistance, and hopefully USAID or some form or another coming back. Thank you again. It's a real honor to be here. Really appreciate the recognition. Thank you, everyone.
I also asked Margaret McMorrow to speak. Oh yeah, hi Margaret.
Thanks so much, Mercy. Stand? Oh, it's okay. Usually can't stand behind a podium. I'm Margaret McMorrow. I would like to echo these thanks to the Berkeley Rotary for recognizing the efforts of public servants and countless partner organizations around the world. It's really amazing for me to be here. It's especially meaningful to be back in Berkeley. I got my master's degree here in civil engineering in 2002. And I'm also, keeping with the theme of gratitude, grateful to have personally contributed to water supply systems in Afghanistan, new roads, schools, rural clinics in Mozambique, household sanitation in West Africa, and working with Ugandans to protect their amazing wildlife. In Uganda, I also had an opportunity to work directly, just like I think it was Carlos, with Rotarians. USAID had for a long time, you mentioned it, had a corporate level partnership with Rotary in Washington, and I got to partner with Rotary in Uganda to stretch those water and sanitation dollars a little further. And most of those funds went to trying to reduce conflict over water in a part of Uganda that has historically had a lot of water conflict. And I'm thankful that Rotary is continuing to make that investment even in USAID's absence. So thanks again to all of you, and please consider hiring some of us.
Phenomenal education for me at least. It's just wonderful to hear all of these stories that I was unaware of the scope and magnitude of what USAID was. Look, we're running short of time. I had asked several other USAID people individually to spend a minute each simply telling us what they did. I'm not sure if we have enough time to do that, unless it's okay with everybody here if we spend another 5 or 10 minutes beyond the promised 1:30. Is it okay with Ilya? Is it okay with you? David? All right? Thanks for your patience. All right. Go ahead, man. 5 minutes. Only. Okay, so I'm only asking some of the people that I've spoken with, if anybody else wants to contribute to what we've just heard, raise your hand and we'll bring a mic to you. If nobody else wants to speak, that's great. We'll get out of here in a timely manner. We've heard enough of these testimonies. Okay, terrific. Next on the agenda then is the litany. And you all have a copy of the litany. We're going to ask you to join in at certain points.
I just want to ask, Linda on Zoom, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Is there anybody on Zoom that might want to speak? We have time for 1 or 2 more people.
Thank you for asking, Dan. We have some USAID people here. If you would like to say something, could you come on screen, off mute, and share with us? Blaine, maybe you? No. Dan, it looks like not.
That's fine, that's fine. We want to thank you too.
Wait a minute, hold on, Blaine's coming.
Thanks all. I just want to express gratitude to the entire Rotary Club for this event and for honoring the work of our agency. As you can tell, it really means a lot to the staff who dedicated their careers to helping some of the most desperate people in some of the most dangerous places around the world. And I just want to echo that gratitude on my behalf. I happen to work on energy sector development issues, trying to get electricity to places that didn't have power or otherwise needed to rebuild or add more supply to the grid to enable economic development that keeps people safe, healthy, happy at home. So again, thank you all, and looking forward to further events with this group. Over.
Thank you, Blaine. Is there anyone else? Okay, then back to you, Dan, and to the podium.
Thank you, Linda. Linda's our Zoom guru. Thank you, Linda. Would the readers for litany come to the front, please? Traditionally, a litany is a type of prayer of sorts, but for us, it's more like a petition or a proposal, a statement of our hopes for ourselves, our communities, and humankind. So for the litany, the leaders will read a line, followed by us saying in unison, "We dedicate this tree." And at the end, after all the leaders have read their lines, then we all say in unison the last paragraph. Okay, you all should have a copy at your table. Apologies. Okay, in furtherance of the fourth object of Rotary, the advancement of international understanding, goodwill, and peace, we meet to dedicate a redwood tree in honor of USAID for their service to all mankind. We dedicate this tree
to the end of our personal belief and our scientific inquiry. May the constant handmaids of life and never the henchmen of death.
We dedicate this tree
to the end of the treasure now spent on the engine of war may be used for the arts of peace.
We dedicate this tree
to the end, that we may love not only our country, but also the whole family of nations.
We dedicate this tree
in honor of the United States Agency for International Development, which has worked tirelessly to address the rights of all citizens.
We dedicate this tree
to the pledging of ourselves in Rotary to use our strength, our means, our lives for the welfare of all people and the advancement of international understanding, goodwill, and peace.
We dedicate this tree
in unison, thanks to all those who have devoted their lives to the establishment of peace and justice on the earth. Especially we give thanks to the service of the United States Agency for International Development, in whose name the tree is dedicated. May it serve as a constant reminder of the obligations that are ours in Rotary, that we help sustain a falling pride and greed, which leads to war, and we plant among all people resolute purpose to seek agreement in the ways of.
Thank you all.
On behalf of the Berkeley Rotary Club and all the Rotaractors out there and everybody affiliated with the club, we thank you all for coming. Thank you to our guests. Thank you, USAID. At this point, we would like to have all of the USAID people come to the front for a photo opportunity.
And Dan, this is Linda. There are USAID people here on Zoom. If they would like to come on screen so we all could see them, that would be great. Thank you all. Oh, it's wonderful to see you.
Hey, don't you get to come up? You're in USAID.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Amy.
We don't.
How about 5 rows?
We don't need to.
I agree.
Yeah, there we go, okay.
I think they're getting us on Zoom as well. It's going to be a good photo. Why not?
Okay, everyone smile. 1, 2, 3. Hooray! Hooray! Thank you.
Before we all adjourn, Tina has an announcement. Tina, where are you?
Just quickly, I want to thank our caterers, Saffron Catering from Oakland, for the meal that they provided to us. And thank you. And Berkeley Community Media, which is providing streaming for this event, first time ever. They're doing it gratis. So I just want everybody to recognize what this marvelous agency has done. Thank you. Never seen that.
All right, I'm Tina Echeverry. I'm the treasurer of the Berkeley Rotary Endowment. And I want to use this opportunity to basically thank all USAID people here today. You really are the unsung heroes of the world. And so thank you for even coming to Berkeley today. One of the things that the Berkeley Rotary Endowment does, we're a $1 million endowment, and we support our community in healthcare, early reading programs, food insecurity, supportive housing, and across the world we support early education. We help build schools. We have a water project, an eye clinic in Guatemala, many projects. And so if you're inspired today by everything you've heard, I'd like to ask you to come to our website and make a donation to Berkeley Rotary Endowment. You can do that by going to berkeleyrotary.org, and there's a big yellow button, and on that button you can donate to our endowment. So thank you, and